I am doing this one as a request for a buddy of mine. B, this one is for you. So, a little while ago, I decided to watch the live action adaptation of Lady Snowblood. Highly enjoyed the first one. Second one was fine, I guess. But a recommendation, here's another one: Lone Wolf and Cub. By the way, the actual translation for manga means whimsical pictures, just so you're aware. Based on the best selling manga series, this six intensely kinetic Lone Wolf and Cub films elevated chambara to bloody new heights. The Shogun's executioner. Chambara means sword piece. Ito Ogami, Tomisaburo Wakayama, takes to wandering the countryside as an assassin, along with his innocent son Daigoro, Akihiko Tomikawa, and a seemingly infinitely weaponized perambulator, helping those he encounters while seeking vengeance for his murdered wife. Delivering stylish thrills and a body count that defies belief, Lone Wolf and Cub is beloved for its brilliantly choreographed action sequences, as well as tender depiction of the bonds between a parent and a child. Six of these here. The first one is from 1972, if I'm not mistaken. 1972-73. This movie is pretty dang good for the most part. This, I like to consider feudal era Japan to be like the Wild West, with its like some of the lawlessness and how everything wasn't all together and everything like that, and the country was going through its own revolution where masculinity reigned and having honor and respect was there, and it was not there. I could be wrong, please correct me. So this one is a kinetic action thriller that deals with that this one, for 86 minutes, there is a lot packed into here because it adapts the first and 6 volumes of the manga. And so yes, we do get a lot of action, but we do get the flashbacks. Yes, those ever eternal flashbacks. I think that here it works well enough. There's not as much. It's like, okay, we get a little something in the beginning to introduce our character. We get the father and son, give us a call. But then we get instantly right back to where 2 years ago he was being an executioner for a clan, and they were going to try and set him up or whatever, and some stuff happens, and ultimately he wins a duel, and I think one of the lawyers say, yes, you can go ahead and we'll leave you alone, but you do not return to Edo, an area in Japan. And yeah, and it's not that long. I think that the toning here is good. It's fine and good. It's not like it takes 40 freaking minutes to get everything. It's like maybe 15, which feels about right. But yeah, and then he eventually goes to this village where there's Ronin, masterless samurai, who have been where they respect the villagers but also intimidate them in a way. So it's like, say what you will about that. It's about finding balance of like what it means to be a father and a son that go on. And I mean, there's even a scene where he has his 1-year-old son, who's still pretty much a freaking infant, saying, here's a sword and a ball, puts them next together. If you go with the ball, I will spare you a life of eternal wandering around, and you will join your mother in the underworld. Or if you choose the sword, you will go through a hell life with me. And the son then, and it's an intense scene because he wants his son either have the best life possible or not. And it's like, dang, that is poignant and powerful. So, and one of the more, it's like we get to see him like what type of path he's walking. He's got like fire and water, to represent the wrath. Like, fire being very hot, and also water that can be very serene and calm, but graceful and moving around. But it can also be extremely intense, with the style of hatred that these clans have for him. So it's very interesting to see him go around, and how he was like, even though that, yes, he is still wandering around. He has the Bushido, which is the which is the code that the samurais follow. That they just have to do. And when he wanders around into this village, they think that this man is acting docile and everything. They even call him a docile pussycat, because he would not combat any of the those that are wanted by the law. But of course we get the big climactic scene where there's blood squirting everywhere, and it feels right. It feels like this is a manga adaptation in live action done well. Very specifically with the camera feeling like it's acting like we as a member are watching and engaging in this, as if we're witnessing it from afar, rather than it just being there for the stylized choices, with the long takes and the zooming in. Although I did notice one part when he's pretty much clobbering and eliminating, we get to see him zoom in, there's a cut, there's him taking on another person. I do know that is one of the more common scenes in anime. I cannot deny that. But at the same time, here it feels right. But there's a lot of blood. And the blood is, make of it what you will. But I guess it does fit the kind of intense, mature themes and the, I guess, criticism of the lack of the Bushido and feudal Japan that was going on out around that time, whenever I was 1800s, something like that. That's what I got out of it, because there was this one, you had these three, I'm trying to remember, these three clans. They all wanted to take over a piece of Tokyo, and it's like, hey, local lords, if you dare disrespect us, we will execute you and your family. And this guy's mission pretty much just try and clear his name. So that's part of the motif that's going on, not the leitmotif, but just the motif of revenge in an honorable way, versus those who would just do it just for fun. Samurai would often carry two swords: the traditional long sword used for combat, and the smaller one. Not exactly sure what it was used for, but most likely close quarters combat, CQC. This was eventually outlawed. What was that, in the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s, during, I think that was a Meiji restoration or something like that. And if you had these swords after the samurai was going the way a la the Last Samurai, then you would pretty much be billed as well. I guess some of the other themes going on as Harajuki, which is beheading, and then of course there was seppuku, but it's not like the stereotypical stuff. It actually have to do a little bit of research, which admittedly, because it's 12:24 in the morning as I'm recording this, I'm a little tired. So yeah, overall I think this movie is really good. It's like, did I really have any problems with it? I mean, maybe some of the kind of choppy editing and a weird. It's like, this is a movie where you watch it, it's like, I'm just not familiar with the source material. But, it's like it's like a Western. It's like with the emphasis on the masculinity and the honor and the code and stuff like that. It's like, you do know it, but because this movie is so stylized, it's so good, you just have to watch it and respect it. But, it's I guess one could even compare it to like all the Italian westerns like Django and stuff like that. So it's like you're not here for something really deep, but if you want, like some intense moments with like family and stuff like that, yes, this is delivered in spades. Yes, the Wanderer himself is really good, and I'm like, it's like the Lone Wolf is so dang good. You just gotta watch it, man. Let me see here. So Kenji Misumi was slated to helm Sword of Vengeance. A staff director at Dai since '54, Misumi specialized in chambara swordplay program pictures and had worked on several successful multi-film series, including the '60s Sleepy Eyes to Death starring Raizo Ichikawa. Misumi also directed the very first Zaktoshi title, 1962, and went on to make 5 more entries in that series before directing the first Hanzo the Razor outing. Also for Katsu, in lesser hands, Lone Wolf would have been pure cheapo exploitation, but Misumi's knowledge of period film craft forms a rock-solid foundation that allows his entries to be serious, comedic, erotic, lyrical, and philosophical, while still delivering the bloody goods. 2 different studios, Shokichu and Toho, wanted to distribute Lone Wolf and Cub, Sword of Vengeance, but Toho wound up winning the rights after an impassioned presentation by one of his executives. Toho had also inherited the Zaktoshi series after the collapse of Dai, and Sword of Vengeance was launched on January 15, 1972, as well as the second half of a New Year's double bill that began with Zaktoshi at large. Sword of Vengeance harrowing opening scene, where Ito Ogami performs his duty as the Shogun's executioner on a very young child, is unrelated to the rest of the plot, underlies the constant danger that baby Daigoro will face during the father and son's journey through Mefumado, the way of demons and damnation. This is one of the harshest realms ever depicted in samurai films, where even children must become killers and booby-trap baby cars lest they wind up under the sword stroke of history. Without Daigoro, Ogami would just be another unbeatable Superman with a big sword. The child at his side gives him vulnerability and strength in equal measure, yet neither could make this journey without the other. In addition to setting up dynamics that will run throughout the series, Sword of Vengeance is the consummate manga origin story of a company man becoming a wanted outlaw, told in twists of memory, flashbacks, and dramatic revelations. I'm willing to say this film is in some ways an improvement over the black and white manga version. Blasphemy to some, I know, but there's something that Sunset Duel between Ogami's foe from the treacherous Yagyu clan. In the comic, Ogami's winning streak results in his opponents by simply falling over, but in Vengeance, Misumi, in tandem with Chisaki Makiura's camera work and Toshio Taniguchi's editing, stages the scene in blazing color, and the loser of the duel lets loose an arterial spray from a headless stump in sensuous slow motion. The moment is transformed into something transcendent, outrageous, cinematic. So, yeah, it's like, this movie is shot beautifully, but remember, this is a different style of editing because it's when you just have to think about and look at, it's done right, it's done beautifully, but it's like out of all the other, like I said, with all the other superhuman like samurai with a sword or whatever, this does add an extra layer of vulnerability. So yeah, it's just a different way how to look at a movie. I will have to admit that I don't know too much about the sword play piece or whatever, so it's like, say what you will about that, I don't care. But you know what? All that in mind, I do recommend that you watch Lone Wolf and Cub, Sword of Vengeance.